The Gala of Shadows, written by Asha Lior. Chapter 1, Infiltration and Confrontation. The moon hung high over Charleston, casting a silver glow across the city's grand architecture. Beneath its watchful eye, a gala unfolded in one of the most prestigious venues in town, a historic estate, its towering columns bathed in golden light. Politicians, businessmen, socialites, and lawyers, anyone who mattered, sipped from their crystal champagne flutes, murmuring over business deals and idle gossip. Outside, a red carpet stretched across the entrance, leading to a steady stream of luxury cars and limousines. Cameras flashed as news reporters clamored for interviews, eager to get sound bites from Charleston's most powerful figures. Then a particular limo arrived, one that turned heads before its doors even opened. The chauffeur stepped out and swiftly pulled the door open, revealing a striking black couple. They stepped onto the carpet with an air of measured confidence, their presence impossible to ignore. The man, tall, powerful, built like a warrior, wore a tailored African garb, the deep fabric hugging his form. But what stood out most were the fringes with a border of blue embroidered along the hem, marking him distinctly. Marcus. Beside him, his wife, Cece, walked with effortless grace. Her royal blue evening gown, sleek and elegant, flowed around her form, fringed at the ends in matching bordered blue detailing. Her head wrap, a crown in itself, failed to fully contain the cascades of long, thick curls that slipped free. A murmur swept through the crowd.
Who are they?
You don't know? That's Marcus and Cece.
The only black couple in the room. A few scattered specks of melanin dotted the space. Indian, Asian. But the overwhelming presence was white. The looks they received weren't just out of curiosity. They were out of unease. Marcus, unfazed, leaned slightly toward Cece.
They already got eyes on us,
he muttered. She barely glanced around before replying.
Let him watch. We're here to work.
They moved through the lavish hall, its chandeliers casting warm glows across polished floors. Their target was already in sight. A group of Japanese men, impeccably dressed in sharp suits, stood near the center, engaged in deep conversation with CEOs, board members, and trust fund heirs, the ones who held power, money, and influence. Marcus's approach was smooth, calculated. He intercepted the conversation with effortless charm, seamlessly transitioning the discussion toward his own ventures. Business, security, high-profile clientele. His words were precise, deliberate, gauging the men's interest, feeling for potential clients for EPF's private security services. Cece mirrored his movements. She slipped into another circle, effortlessly engaging Charleston socialites, weaving conversations with a mixture of grace and strategic persuasion. The night unfolded as planned until Marcus's phone buzzed. He pulled it out and answered. A familiar voice, low and urgent, crackled through the speaker.
Boss, we got eyes on the missing kids, down by the docks, near the swamps.
It was Levi, one of his most trusted operatives. The EPF had finally found the location. Marcus's jaw tightened. His gaze flicked across the ballroom, locking onto Cece just as she glanced his way. She saw it in his face.
You gotta go,
she said softly. It wasn't a question. He nodded once.
I'll see you at home.
of course.
She leaned up, pressed a kiss to his lips, soft, fleeting, a moment of grounding before the storm. Without another word, Marcus turned and disappeared into the night. Scene: the swamp ritual, interrupted by war. The air was thick with humidity, the scent of marsh and burning incense lingering as the rhythmic drumming intensified. Shadows danced against the flickering torches, illuminating the eerily synchronized movements of the women in white. They moved like flowing water, their bodies twisting and bending in perfect harmony, whispering an incantation in a forgotten language. The audience watched in reverent silence, sipping from their golden cups, eyes half-lidded with indulgence. At the center of it all stood Hagatha. Her presence commanded the night, poised regal, draped in an elegant white robe that clung to her curves. She was beautiful, but there was something unnatural about it. Age had not touched her, and the glow in her eerie golden eyes reflected something far beyond human comprehension. Beside her, the high priestess whispered something in her ear before stepping forward, hands raised to the heavens.
We offer these gifts. Take them as proof of our devotion.
A hush fell over the gathering. Then, the children were ushered forward, trembling, frightened, clutching each other's hands, some weeping softly. They were the missing ones, the lost ones. And then, it began. The lead dancer, the most graceful of them all, twirled and spun with haunting perfection, her long black hair whipping around her face. She was a woman well into her 40s, but time had not touched her. She dropped to her knees, arms wide, tilting her head back.
Come forth, O Great One. Accept our...
A deafening explosion shattered the night. Smoke erupted from the tree line. The humid air hung heavy over the swamp, the kind that clung to skin and filled lungs like molasses. Hidden beneath the moss-covered cypress trees, EPF operatives stayed low, weapons raised, eyes locked through night vision scopes. A red haze of heat signatures pulsed on their thermal scanners. Levi's voice crackled in Marcus's earpiece, barely above a whisper.
We got movement. Confirmed. The kids are there.
Marcus knelt behind cover, muscles tensed. Through the thick underbrush, he could see it. The ritual. Women in flowing white dresses moved rhythmically, their bodies twisting, swaying to the beat of unseen drums. The firelight bathed them in an orange glow, casting flickering shadows against the backdrop of murky waters and gnarled roots. Between them, a group of trembling children stood barefoot, their ankles bound in silk. Marcus inhaled slowly.
On my mark.
EPF operatives spread out, moving like shadows, tightening their formation. Fingers hovered over triggers, every breath measured, every step calculated. Panic ripped through the ceremony. The drumming halted. Screams, chaos. Figures stumbled through the fog, confusion overtaking them, until gunfire erupted from the tree line. EPF breached. Marcus moved with military precision, pressing forward as flashes of gunfire cut through the mist. Children screamed as Levi and Ari darted toward them, cutting their restraints. And then, the water moved. Marcus's eyes snapped toward the marsh. The surface rippled unnaturally, as if something massive stirred beneath. A wet, gurgling growl rose from the depths. Then, in one horrifying motion, a black, clawed hand shot from the mud, wrapping around an EPF soldier's ankle. The Marine Legion fought back. Some moved like ghosts, flickering in and out of view, dodging bullets like their bodies weren't bound by human physics. Others mutated before their eyes. Skin turned slick and scaled. Eyes glowed like abyssal depths. Fingers elongated into claws. Marcus pressed forward, gritting his teeth. A guard lunged at him, machete raised high. Marcus dodged. His elbow met the man's throat. Another enemy swung. Marcus ducked, yanked his pistol, 2 shots to the chest. The body dropped. But before he could take another breath, Marcus turned just in time to see a man step through the smoke. Calm, controlled. A katana gleamed under the moonlight. Ashitaka. A single gunshot. Ashitaka's blade flashed, The bullet split midair. Marcus exhaled sharply.
Show off.
They clashed. Steel met flesh. Fist met bone. Ashitaka was fast. Too fast. His movements were precise, deliberate, effortless. Marcus dodged by inches, his instincts keeping him alive. A razor-sharp arc came for his throat. He blocked with an armored forearm, but the tip of the blade bit into his chest, drawing blood. Marcus grunted, pivoted, and ripped off Ashitaka's mask. For the first time, he saw his face. Sharp jawline, dark, piercing eyes. A man who could have been mistaken for a prince, if not for the sheer malice in his stare. Ashitaka rolled his shoulders, casual.
Guess I can't play around anymore.
Marcus braced himself. Meanwhile, Levi and Ari rushed the children toward the tree line. Marcus barely registered them until a soft, familiar voice cut through the chaos.
Still crashing my parties, baby!
His grip on his rifle tightened. Hagatha. She stepped forward, heels clicking against the wooden altar, smoke curling around her. Dark, amused eyes traced over Marcus like she already knew how this night would end. Marcus lowered his gun, but didn't shoot.
Then I'll burn the whole board.
Hagatha laughed under her breath, shaking her head. Marcus signaled retreat. EPF fell back, dragging injured soldiers with them. As Marcus turned, he felt her gaze on his back, calculated, assessing. This wasn't over, not even close. The children were safe. That was the mission. That was all that mattered. Marcus exhaled sharply, scanning the battlefield as his men regrouped. The air was thick, damp earth, blood, and incense still clinging to the humid night like a ghost that refused to leave. The Marine Legion had vanished, scattered like shadows dissolving into the swamp. But something felt off, a presence. Then, movement. Marcus's jaw clenched, his grip on his rifle tightened. His men reacted instantly. Levi and Ari flanked him, weapons half raised, eyes trained forward as two figures stepped out from the darkness. They weren't Marine Legion, but that didn't mean they weren't a threat. The first figure was tall, dark-skinned, dreadlocks just brushing his ears. His clothes were torn at the seams, caked in dirt, but his stance, his eyes, held an unshakable resolve. The second was younger, barely out of his teens. His glasses were cracked at the corner, his thin frame tense, but his hands twitched subtly at his sides. Marcus's instinct screamed trap. His weapon didn't lower.
We're running from the Legion.
The words came from the older one. His voice was rough, raw, like someone who had been yelling, fighting, or both for far too long.
Please help us.
Marcus's expression didn't change. His voice? Steel.
No.
Haru flinched, but he didn't step back. Instead, he let out a slow, exhausted breath.
We're not gonna fight you, man.
His hands lifted, not as a defense, not in surrender, but in pure, raw defeat.
We can't go back, I won't.
The younger one, Jeremy, nodded sharply. His voice was measured, careful.
Neither can I.
Marcus didn't move. His gun stayed where it was.
And I'm supposed to believe that?
Marcus asked, voice low.
That this isn't some setup?
Jeremy adjusted his glasses, pushing them up the bridge of his nose.
If it was, we wouldn't have walked straight up to you while your men were still armed.
Levi scoffed. Ari didn't react, but he was watching, studying them. Marcus was silent for a long moment. His gut was telling him to shut them down, shut them out. But Haru didn't stop.
I don't care if you believe me or not.
His voice was steady now, but there was something beneath it. Something honest. Something desperate. He took a deep breath, locking eyes with Marcus.
We can give you everything. The locations, the movements, the structure. You want to take them down from the inside out?
He let the words sink in.
You're gonna need people like us.
Jeremy exhaled.
If we were spies, we wouldn't be offering you that.
Marcus stared them down. The swamp was quiet now. No more gunfire, no more screams. Just the occasional drip of water, the distant croak of frogs, the shifting weight of his men waiting for his call. Ari spoke first.
They're telling the truth.
Marcus glanced at him. He didn't look away. Levi clicked his tongue but said nothing. Marcus let out a slow breath through his nose. Then he nodded.
You two come with me.
His voice was firm, cold, final.
You want to prove yourselves, you'll get your chance, but you step out of line once, just once.
His gaze hardened.
And I'll handle you myself.
Haru and Jeremy didn't hesitate.
Understood.
With that, Marcus turned. His men followed. The swamp behind them remained eerily still, but Marcus knew this wasn't over. This was only the beginning.
O Ancient of Days, the Mighty One of Jacob, the consuming fire, look down upon this land of our captivity, this land of blood and deceit. The sins of this nation rise up to heaven, its wickedness overflowing like a poisoned river. They have defiled your holy name, cast your law behind their backs, taken the innocent for prey, and called evil good. O Lord, how long shall the heathen prosper? How long shall the wicked be lifted up, while your chosen ones groan in chains? The rulers of this world sit in their high places, fattened with the blood of the poor, drunk with the wine of corruption, speaking peace with their lips, while their hands hold swords. They steal our land, poison our waters, make our sons fatherless, and our daughters widows, selling our children for silver, turning the house of Israel into a den of thieves. O righteous judge, let their riches be moth-eaten, their power crumble to dust. Let the idols of this land be shattered, let the false prophets be exposed, let the lying tongues be cut down. Break the teeth of the oppressors, scatter the workers of iniquity. Have mercy upon your people, O Holy One of Israel. Remember the covenant of our fathers, the promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Turn our captivity, raise up mighty men in the land. Let the righteous stand as a banner before the nations. Awaken the sleepers, open the eyes of the blind. Pour out your spirit upon the brokenhearted, and set the prisoners free. May the wicked tremble at your name. May the mountains shake at your voice. For you alone are God, and there is none beside you. All glory, all power, all dominion is yours forever and ever. Amen.